Welcome to the Shared Path. I'm Maggie Linton. During the time I had my show on Sirius XM, my most requested guest is our next guest. Lloyd Strayhorn is a world-renowned astro-numerologist, best-selling author, and media personality who shares his gifts around the world. Through twice-weekly podcasts, classes, and personal readings, Lloyd gives guidance to all he can. I'm very pleased to welcome one of my dearest friends, Lloyd Strayhorn. Welcome, Lloyd.
Maggie, welcome, welcome. I always loved you for all the right reasons. It's just great. It's just great. You look beautiful. I'm so happy for you. And
Oh,
thank you
thank
for
you.
having me on. I'm very honored to be your guest.
Oh, well, listen, it's an honor to be your guest a couple of days ago. But I
That
have
was
to tell
wonderful.
you, you asked me who were some people that I, love to talk to, and other than you. But I forgot about Maya Angelou. She was just so amazing, and being able to talk to her was really special. Did that a couple of times. And also, I have to say, Ambassador Andrew Young, one of the smartest and brightest and funniest men I've ever met. They are really two of the top of my list type of people who really made a difference. So,
Well, I know I met Maya Angelou on a couple of occasions, so I was very honored to be in her space as far as I'm
yeah.
concerned, with all of her magnificence and eloquence and words of speech and poetic verse and whatnot. I mean, it's like it was an honor for me.
Very special, very special. All right, since we've got you here, I want you to talk about your very special beginning because you are New York through and through, aren't you?
Oh, yes, I am. Born in Harlem, love Harlem, raised in Harlem, still live in Harlem. And Harlem is ever going changes, but it's what happens is people don't know that when people come to New York, the most wanted to visit place or segment of New York City is Harlem, not Staten Island, Queens, Brooklyn, or Bronx. They always want to come to Harlem. Many giants have walked the streets of Harlem and lived in Harlem, from Paul Robeson, uh, uh, uh,
Wilt
Marcus Garvey
Chamberlain.
started here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wilt Chamberlain. In fact, uh, so many great men and women lived here in Harlem. It's just amazing. Harlem has a long history. In fact, I'm working on a book now that's going to be completed. A team of I and other artists called Forever Harlem, or Harlem's Evolution, a whole unique history of 125 years of Harlem history. Adam Clayton Powell. It's interesting. Dr. Martin Luther King was actually stabbed on 125th Street. It was the doctors at Harlem Hospital that saved him. They said that had he coughed just a smidgen, it would have punctured his heart, and it would have been the rest of the history. He wouldn't even waited to. He had gotten into the prominence he has. Malcolm X spoke on the corners of Harlem. I mean, so many historical things happen in this community and it's so rich in its history, rich in its culture. The Harlem Renaissance period, the numbers actually started here in Harlem. So in my book, Forever Harlem, which is a book I finished back in 2000 something, I explained that Caspar Holstein, who was born on December the 7th, came to Harlem from the Caribbean, and he worked on Wall Street. He was actually a janitor, and he was the one that devised the technique for the numbers that we know. And he kept people employed during the Harlem Renaissance. I mean, numbers was played everywhere, beauty parlors, funeral salons, whatnot. Numbers would be played in my father's barbershop. You know what I'm saying? Keeping it real. So it kept a lot of people employed, and he would give out scholarships. So, I mean, he's just one of a plethora of giants of figures that made Harlem what it was, and in such a historic context. So the book that I'm working on with this team now, that should be out in about a couple of months, is a treasure for me to give my contribution to a place of New York City that I grew up all my life.
When you talk about it's going through the Harlem Renaissance is very famous.
Mm.
When I think about Langston Hughes and so many other folks, but it's going through a renaissance again
Yes, it
right
is.
now. It's
Yes.
amazing how different Harlem is, and it's becoming even more of an integrated society rather than just the hardcore Black folks. When I say that hardcore, I mean with their talents, with their many gifts that they shared so much and took care of each other. And I think of, Sylvia's restaurant, which is, the
Yeah.
restaurants, the clubs, the things like that, which was part of the old Harlem, but there's a lot of new stuff that's coming up now too and
But
doing great.
there's this saying, what's old is new and what's new is
Mm-hmm.
old. So going
Mm-hmm.
back 125 years of Harlem history, many ethnic groups have lived in this community before Black people. We just had the greatest impact during the early 1920s up until the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s. But almost every ethnic group, Italians, Jewish, I mean, you name them, they
Yeah,
all occupied Harlem at once. And I think that's what gives it such a flavor. Because don't forget, we're going to be covering 125 years of Harlem history, and Black folks wasn't in Harlem for 125 years, that's for sure. But it's to recognize the diversity of all of its different cultures, the contributions that have been made. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so what Norman Rockwell lived in Harlem, for example. I mean, and other people of note that were not of color. So it just shows diversity, and Harlem is one of the easiest access to get to. In Harlem, I can go downtown, uptown by train, by bus, by cab. I can walk. It's one of the few boroughs of the 5 boroughs in New York City that transportation is everywhere. You got this line, you got buses running kind of everywhere. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. I love this community.
I can tell.
Yeah, I do. I really do.
But let's talk about when you realized that you had a gift that you needed to share with others.
Well, I didn't know it was a gift. What happened is I was very shy in school, shy talking to the girls, okay? And so in my shyness, I wanted to know who I was. So then I came across this thing called astrology. And okay, so I look it up. I find out I'm an Aquarius, and I began to devour everything I could find about that sign in particular. And so what happens is, as I began to grow, I learned that almost everybody wanted to know who they were, particularly by their zodiac signs. But then what happens is, in the summer of when my college days, and I was visiting my roommate, Frank Doggett, in Atlantic City, that's when I was introduced to the word numerology. So when I graduated from school, I then worked at CBS, and they had a book division then called Avon Books. The first book
For
I
that.
got
Sure.
was Vincent Lopez's numerology. Now, as you see, I've got books everywhere. I've got all these numerology books. I've got books that's over 100 years old.
Yeah.
I love doing the research. And so what happens is I found as a result that not only did I want to know about me, but almost everybody wants to know about themselves to a lesser or greater degree. And here's the thing that makes it so funny, Maggie. A person will say, I don't believe in astrology. And I'll say, well, what's your zodiac sign? I'm a Capricorn. They don't even think about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Very true.
And
They,
so every newspaper, with the exception of the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, carries horoscopes. Elle magazine carries horoscopes. Harper's Bazaar, the fashion magazine I used to work for.
Cosmopolitan,
Yeah, yeah,
Essence,
yeah.
everything.
They
Yeah.
all carry horoscopes. In fact, Essence, I did a piece for them on numerology um, a couple of years back. So they all have a love of astrology. Astrology is ancient, is very old. In fact, if you look at it from the days of old, Napoleon used astrology, Hitler used astrology. One of the more recent ones was I explained is that Ronald Wilson Reagan, who was the president of the United States, inaugurated on March the 4th of 1980. On March the 30th of 1981, in front of the Hilton down there in Washington, D.C.,
Right.
when there was the attempted assassination, his
Mm-hmm.
wife hired Kathleen Quinn, an astrologer, and he made it out alive. And what made it interesting, what people don't know is, and to show you how much numerology ties in with history, there's only been 5 Aquarian presidents. Ronald Wilson Reagan made the 5th one, but he was the only one that got out alive. All the other 4 presidents who are under the sign of Aquarius died in office. Now, Aquarius is always the sign of the odd and unusual. For example, the first president that lived the shortest time was an Aquarius, William Henry Harrison. He was sworn in on March the 4th of 1840, and on April of 1840, he died because when his inauguration speech, he had no shirt on. You
Oh,
know,
too long.
they talked too long and caught pneumonia and died.
Mhm.
Then, if you look at the next one, the first president to be assassinated in office, Abraham Lincoln, happened to be an Aquarius, born on February the 12th. And in fact, that is the birthday of the NAACP. The NAACP's birthday is November the 12th, and I mean February the 12th, in honor of Abraham Lincoln. Okay, a lot of people don't know. Then
No.
William McKinley died in office. Then Roosevelt. And what made Roosevelt, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, unique as an Aquarius, he was the only president that served 4 times. No, before then you could only serve 2 times. He served 4 times, and it was he that moved the inauguration date of swearing in, and originally was March the 4th, and he's the one that moved it back to
January 20th.
January 20th. Yes, he moved it back from the sign of Pisces back into the sign of Aquarius. And of those 4 presidents, 3 of them died in April. So I just think it's interesting. And there
Yeah.
are other facts about presidents. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the 28th president was born on the 28th of the month. I mean, there's so much. It just, I just love this. I mean, and I love helping people. I, numerology has taught me history. It has taught me language. It has taught me culture. And somebody says numerology, so everybody think I'm this great math student. But if truth be told, there, to be honest, I got a lot of D's. But see, D was for dynamic. It wasn't it wasn't
Exactly.
dummy. It was for dynamic. It's about attitude. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah. Very
so
much so.
so I've gone on to meet who's who in the world. The first African American president of Chicago, Harold Washington. I met him as a result of being on Oprah Winfrey's show. I mean, I've just been blessed to meet all kinds of celebrities, you name it. And being on your show didn't help either because I met Bishop T.D. Jakes and Monique, the comedian, and Leela Hathaway, Donnie Hathaway's daughter. And I forgot how many other people you allowed me to interact with in studio. So, I mean, it's just been really an honor. And if somebody said you would do all of this from numerology, you'd write 6 books, you'd be on national television and radio, I'd say, get out of here, not me. Because I was so shy and bashful. That's how I
You know,
learned how to play flute.
one of the things though is you really want people to understand also how it works. Your best-selling book, Numbers in You, is still one of your best-selling books, isn't it? And
Yeah,
you sell it all over the world. And how many languages is it in?
I don't know, but I know this. My online course is translated into 30 over 30 languages. And I'm in now my online course, How to Read a Book. Learn from Lloyd. It's the Learn from Lloyd series, How to Read a Book, is in over 91 countries across this entire continent. I mean, it's just amazing what this has done. And I tell people, as long as the person's living, and and even if I don't know the language, I can just get an interpreter because I got their number. But speaking of my book, Numbers in You, which is my bestseller,
Mm-hmm.
I looked on Google late last year, they had the best-selling numerology books of all times in ranking order from 1 to 100. Well, Numbers in You was ranked number 8. In my other book, Lloyd's Book of Numbers, A Numerology Guide for the 21st Century, was ranked number 30. So, I mean, if they only did the top 50, 2 of my books out of 6 that I wrote is in the best-selling books of all time. And that to me is an honor. And never in my wildest dream, I was just curious. And let me tell you, you know how it is in the Black family. I graduated from college and I told my dad I wanted to be a numerologist. Well, he thought it was a neurologist. And you know how you got to have the first doctor in the
Yeah.
family. You know
Yeah.
how that
Here,
goes.
here you come.
Yeah. And then a couple of weeks later, it must have hit him. He says, "What was that again?" I says, "I want to be a numerologist." And to his credit, he says, as a father to a son, how do you make a living? I had no idea. I knew I found something I was very passionate about. So this is how I tell people how to find their passions. You make a wish list. It's going to be 3 lists. One is your crazy list. Don't share with your friends. Oh, girl, you can't do that. Oh, you too young for that. Oh, you too. Oh, people got all kinds of excuses so they think they love you. No, you
Yeah. Yeah.
got here.
They'll tell you what you can't
So
do.
you make your list. You want to jump out of an airplane. You want to do this and that. So then the second list deals with more reality of that long list of all these buckets you want to do. Which of those then provides and feeds your family or pay your bills or your living or your phone bill or food? Then the third list is the most significant. Of that list, what would you do if you didn't get paid? When you found that you found your passion.
Doing it right now.
And then it's how did and then
I
it's
have
how
been
do you
paid
develop it
in the
into a living?
past.
And
Yeah.
that's it too.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
had no idea when my dad asked me that. And I'm married, having children and whatnot. I had no clue, but I knew I loved doing this. Had you called me about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I rubbed the sleep out of my eyes and just, what's your birthday again? And find my pen and paper, get started. So that's what I try to tell people. All of us have a passion. It's just, what is that passion? But we're so distracted with things going on with the internet and this, that, and the other, and influencers now, and they just throw you off your track. So we're more concerned about Yay, and is he going to get that 75 million from Adidas and this, that, and the other, that we need to know what's going on. There was a guy, a motivational speaker named Earl Nightingale,
Oh,
and he
yes.
called
I
this
remember
saying
him.
acres
Yeah.
of diamonds. And he talked about the fact that underneath our own feet perhaps lies acres of diamonds. All we got to do is look. But again, we're so distracted looking over here, looking over there, that we don't see what we have underneath our own feet. So my show is about getting people to think for themselves, begin to find out who they are, and really help people. And that's my joy. That to me is the greatest turn on, to help people help themselves. That's
It,
priceless.
it is priceless. And as I said, you were the first person, you were the most requested person of anybody I had on in the 3.5 years that I was doing. I mean, folks would call in 10 minutes, 15 minutes before you got on to be ready so that they could get in because the phones would blow up and people were wanting to get in.
And you
And
had me
you
on for 2 hours.
and we'd go for 2 hours, and if we could have gone for three, we'd have gone for three.
Yep.
That's how popular you were. I can remember my boss saying to me, who do you have on? Because we've got 900 calls that one, on a regular basis whenever you were on. So
But see, that's a confirmation that people, everybody I meet, want to know a little bit more about themselves that they didn't
mhm.
know before. We're all trying to find our North Star, so to speak, where we're heading, why we're here. And that's what numerology does. See, numerology fascinates me. Unlike astrology, astrology deals with your birthday just like numerology, but numerology also deals with your name. So the birthday, from a numerology perspective, indicates why you are here, but it is your name that indicates what you know. And so the name of a person denotes their talents, their gifts, their skills, their abilities, where the birthday indicates symbolically what grade you are in the school of life that you're here to learn. So for numerologists, so I remember when I was in studio with you and TD Jakes, Bishop TD Jakes had called in because he had just published a book called Destiny. And I was explaining that we all have a destiny. If you're born on some month, some day, some year, your dog has a destiny, your cat has a destiny, the mice have a destiny. If they're born on some month, some day, some year, they are here for a reason. And so what happens is, instead of me taking these terms saying your destiny, life path, unless you are in the field of numerology, because in any field, whether radio, mechanics, being a doctor, they got their jargons that they use. So only you in that field know. So what I do to the layperson, I'll say, for example, a person's month, day, and year might be a 5. I don't say you have a 5 destiny or you have a 5 life path, the birth path. I'll say the month, the day, and the year you're born says you're in the 5th grade in the school of life. Now, most of us are going to school. And we know that when we're in a grade, what do you got to do? You got to learn what's ever in that grade if you want to go to the next grade. And so by doing that, that's how I grasp people's attention. And I've learned how to get them engaged with me too. So I'm not just talking at them, but I've got them involved in their own. And so then when I take them through a Q&A and I lay it out, So, for example, if I took you being a Libra 2 person, your numbers are the 2, 7, and 6. So people think that's to go play lottery or win the bingo. No, it's not that. It tells me it sets the foundation to a person's days, what their best days are in the week. In your case, it's always on a Monday and a Friday and a minor way Thursday. Then it goes to the next level about your dates. So since you are a 276, that means the 2nd, the 6th, the 7th of the month. Then the 11th, the 15th, the 16th of the month, because 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 5 is 6, 1 plus 6 is 7. Then the next set of dates will be the 20th, then the 24th, the 25th, because 2 plus 0 is 2, 2 plus 4 is 6, 2 plus 5 is 7. Then the 29th of the month, because 2 plus 9 is 11 and 1 plus 1 is 2. Then I go to the bigger picture, which is your months. So therefore, your most powerful months are always in and around the months of March, then May, then July, then October. And I think you celebrated your 39th wedding anniversary in May, if I'm not
Right.
mistaken. Yeah, just
Yeah.
coincidence. People say that's coincidence. And then when I have them underscore, you should see there's almost like a light bulb that comes off. There's this awareness. Because if you can be in the wrong place at the wrong time, why can't you be in the right place at the right time? We know that, like, for example, when I used to spend my childhood in the South with my grandmother, we used to like green peanuts or boiled peanuts, as they call them.
Love boiled
Yeah,
peanuts.
well, when they're out of season, they're out of season.
Hmm.
Birds know when to swim up the Capistrano, fish know when to swim upstream, birds know when to not make, and herds know when to migrate north to south. They're doing it on a more natural clock rhythm. But we have our time too. And I'm saying to people, if God has given seasons for certain fruits and vegetations and flowers and plants and animals, we're made in his highest image, and he did not give us a season too, because I went to seminary school. See,
Of
and
course
so
you did.
people,
Yeah.
so people think that, well, this goes against the laws of God. Nowhere can they prove that to me.
Hmm.
And I'll tell them, if they take the Old Testament, the fourth book of Moses is called the book of Numbers, where
Hmm.
God is instructed by God to name the troops on the second day of the second month by their name, their numbers in their poll. All the 12 tribes of Israel's numbers are in there. Then if you swing to the far end of the Bible, to the New Testament of Revelation, they said, for here is the mark of the beast, and there's the mark of man, and his number is 666. I'm just paraphrasing. And then further down into that, they talk about Christ's birthday cryptically as 888. So, I mean, and how could you find your verse? And I remember when I was a kid, my mother would take us to church, right? And she would be sitting there with her girlfriends, all the women in church. They said, girl, that hymn number looked real good, because they go play that number that week. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. There are people who are very lucky with their numbers and others who wish they were. Uh, and just having a little bit of knowledge, because we have to talk about your new app, the A Star 8, which is just absolutely, I love it. Because I can look every day and say, am I on a green day or am I on a neutral day? I'm on a red day.
yes,
And it makes such a big difference for kind of knowing it's like a little quiet guide and it's specifically for me. And
yes.
anybody can get it right now, can't they?
Yes. Well, it's called a star eight. It's like, and I tell people, think of a star in the heavens with the number eight attached. It's ASTAR number eight. So all Android users can get it now. Google, about another week or so, it'll be ready for the iOS or iPhone users. But it's designed to get a person to map their things out. For you, before the app came along, when I was coming on your show, I would always do your calendars, but your calendars that you would send me start getting so historic, because I'm in the history, the Tuskegee calendars, the discount. I'll be saying, like,
Exactly.
when I keep this, I'll give you back another calendar, a 99-cent calendar. Make five.
Go
But
to the dollar store.
yeah, yeah. But this, I've been doing this since the 80s, because people, especially my business colleagues, wanted to make plans. So, when they look at their calendar, they can project. So with this, you can project up ahead, or you can look back when you had that. What day was that I had that little fallout, a little misstep, or whatever the case is? More than likely to be a red star day, red star, double red star, triple green star, a red star day, and then the green. So the green is for go and the red is for slow or no. And it simply means, so therefore, when you got to make an appointment, you know how you say, well, listen, I need to look on my phone. They don't know you're looking at the app and looking at your own calendar, because your calendar is totally different. So what I've done is I tested it. So people with different birthdays don't have the same red star, green star days and stuff like that. And it just makes it a very fascinating thing. So tomorrow, for example, in your case, is going to be a double green star day. Why? Because you're number 2, and tomorrow is a Friday. Friday is one of your best days. 2 is one of your. So I expect 2 green star days to pop up just as nice for you. You
Okay.
know what I'm saying?
It'll work for
So,
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, the other thing that you brought out in doing the app, people should use the name that they go by, not necessarily their birth. I my real name is Margaret. He says, but you told me everyone knows you as Maggie.
Yes.
And it's the Maggie that drives that. That's the number that you look toward for getting my name spelled out and ready to go.
Well, see, one of the things about the app is when you get to the main cover, it'll show you your number to the left. You have a number 2. So that means you were either born on the 2nd, the 11th, or 20th, or the 29th of the month. Then to the right of it is the planet that governs that number, because each number is ruled by a planet in the heavens. And then it gives you a description. Then below that, you get your daily star guide that tells you what personal week you're in, what personal month you're in, what personal week you're in. Then right away to the right of that star guide, you see your how many stars you got, whether they're neutral, red,
You
or
break the
green.
name down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you press into it. But it's the name underneath that you can actually alter. So, for example, when I did my name Lloyd Strayhorn, that factored out to one thing. But when I did my father's middle name, now my father was Lloyd Tyler Strayhorn. On my birth certificate, they did not include my father's middle name in my birth certificate. And so when I typed in Lloyd Tyler Strayhorn, the dial really went to like 80, 90. So I now start using Lloyd Tyler Strayhorn in certain instances. But you can use your name. You can just use your first name. This is why people in Hollywood, like, Christopher Latour Wallace became Biggie Smalls. You know what I'm saying? People, Earl Simmons became DMX. So it just helps people. And in Hollywood and in the music and entertainment business, half the people's names, Elton John's name was not Elton John. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yes. Yeah.
just a host of things. So in Hollywood, these actors and actresses, like if you looked at the famous movie legend or Hollywood romantic Cary Grant, his name was Archibald Leach. Well,
Don't
who
be into
is
that, no matter
Archibald Leach?
how good you look.
Yeah, yeah, and he was a good-looking guy in those
Yeah.
days. But when you change the name, they change their fortune. So even Shakespeare says, "What's in a name?" And the response was everything.
True. That's
Yeah.
very true.
So that's how
Yeah.
it goes.
It's like I said, you share your gifts, you teach your classes, you have your podcast that you have on Monday and Wednesdays at 7 o'clock in the evening.
Yep. And you're on the
You roll.
podcast too. But
Yeah.
you're on the podcast. But my live show is each Monday and Wednesday at 7 on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And my show is called Numbers in You on the channel name. But my show, when I'm doing it live, is called Live with Lloyd. Then I
Mhm.
do my online courses called Learn from Lloyd series. So everything got Lloyd in it about learning alive and stuff like that. So I really enjoy it. I've really enjoying it. And what's amazing is the people who have been significant in my life that helped me have always been ladies with the number 2.
You're
So, for
welcome.
example, yes, that's what I'm trying to tell you. So, for example, when I started my Live with Lloyd on YouTube, the person I was sitting in her home in Philly, her name is Jackie Barrios, and she says, "Lloyd, why don't you do this?" And she sent me there and experimented, and I made a commitment that on July of 2021 I would do this, and I made a date. My best days are Monday and Wednesdays, which is why I do it. The show is at 7 because I'm a number 7. You gotta, what they say, live what you preach or preach what you live and stuff like that.
Right. That's
So,
right.
so that's what I did. And I did it consistently. I was very bashful about it. I thought it would be 15 minutes. Now all my shows now go for an hour. I'm so busy running my mouth. And then it's just growing. Everything is growing. Then my online course came from a woman born on April the 20th, a 2. Okay. And then it was meeting you born on a 2 that opened up everything. in the Maryland, Virginia. Uh, uh,
Actually, Lloyd, you got calls from everywhere. When
yeah,
being
yeah,
a national show, you got, you did more work within the DMV, but you were getting calls from everywhere all around the country
yeah,
because
yeah,
we were national.
yeah. And I'm getting calls now from everywhere. Now they're from different countries, South Africa, Canada. I mean, it's such a nice. I am truly blessed. And I got enough sense to know it. That's the nice thing about it. My
Yeah,
mother used to say, don't be smelling yourself. It's like, okay, mom.
well, it's saying thank you, but again, I call it a gift because when I was telling people I was getting ready to come back with my podcast, and I of course called you for a little consulting,
Hmm.
and I remember people saying, "You went to a numerologist?" Oh, that's I said, believe me, folks, this is the real deal. And if you're out there and you're listening and you've taken the time to tune in, then definitely know that this is real. We're born on a date, we're born in a time. And if you do know that time, that really helps even more. And it helps things to be able to narrow in and zoom in to exactly who you are because we have numbers, everything, like you were talking about, even in the Bible. But numbers are all around us.
You can't find a verse without going to some number reference or chapter and then
That's
the
right.
verse.
That's
They're
it.
all about numbers, especially Psalms. Did you know the longest verse is in Psalm and yet the shortest verse, Jesus wept, is also found in Psalms? I mean, so how do you do this? And so, but I do understand that some people feel that is antichrist.
Skeptics.
I got an aunt, bless her soul. When she sees me, she'll also make the sign of the cross. I say, Aunt Sally, it's not that serious. It's okay. We're gonna be okay. But here's what I say to people. One of the Ten Commandments is thou shalt not kill. And yet, most of the wars that we have going on at this nation right now is religious in nature. You got the Romans and the Catholics. You got the Muslims and the Hindus, all fighting in the name of God. That my God is better than yours. The crusade, you name it. I tell people, name me one war fought in the name of the sign of Libra. They can't name me one. Name me one war fought in the name since Cain killed Abel in the Bible in the name of the number two. They can't name me one. So until such time they find me a war named or in the name of a zodiac sign or number, I'm going to continue to do what I do.
That's
And then they
it's
get upset with me.
yeah.
Go
Yeah.
figure. I'm trying to use common sense
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
my parents taught me. And that was the beauty of them not having education. They had what is called common sense,
Yeah.
mother wit. And so I take those things. What I did has never caused a war. It has never killed a person. It's never taken an innocent life or any life, intentional or otherwise, nor have a zodiac sign. But yet, man, since Cain killed Abel, have always been at war over one God's. They think one God is better than another. Then the Irish in Ireland, the Catholics and the Protestants.
Protestants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's always something. And yet, all the tenets say, "Thou shalt not kill, honor thy mother and thy father." They say it in a different way, but the Ten Commandments are basically, no matter which ethnic group you go to, the tenets are the same, especially "Thou shalt not kill." And that's one of the first ones. And yet, they're constantly wars like Russia and Ukraine. You know what I'm saying? Taking innocent lives,
Yeah.
but not
Well,
anything can.
that's a power grab once
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
That's politics now.
that ego,
Yes,
uh, ego of one man, and now it's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, we just keep praying. I keep praying for peace.
Yeah.
That's what I want more
So
than
what I
anything.
do when I talk to agnostics or people who don't believe in this, and I try to use common sense. For example, born again Christians, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Seventh-day Adventists really have a problem with what I do. But I tell them to name me a war fought in the name of a zodiac sign or a birth number, and they can't do it. But yet there's a whole history of wars fought against this entire world. So what I do don't kill anybody. Maybe they should try that. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, you give
Common
people
sense.
hope and inspiration when they sometimes feel like there's no place to go, and maybe they're trying to choose which path to go down. And
Yeah.
again, there's that path guidance that also you give.
Well, we're all here for a reason or a season. And I tell people from the womb to the tomb, you are a number. You cannot get around it. And so during the pandemic that shut down the country in March of 2020, they had these challenges. How long can you hold your breath challenge? How long can you climb these crate challenges? So I says, I have this $100 bill. It's all yours. No catch. The only thing is you must tell me how you're going to get up in the morning and start your day from beginning to end and don't use numbers. It's impossible. You're going to want to know what time it is. You're going to either want to make a call or get a call. That's a number. You're going to buy breakfast or lunch. You're going to buy gas. That's a number. If you're in an elevated building, you're going to buy. You can't. And I tell and to the guys especially, I said, suppose you met the most beautiful woman in the world, Maggie Linton, and you want to know her better. And Maggie says, just dial any number. They'll be dialing numbers to the cows come home. But if they dial the right 10 numbers in the right order, they get the right person.
That's right. That's true.
So
That's
now
true.
what did they tell you? Don't give out your social security number. Don't give out this number. Don't give out that number. See, everything now is predicated number. See what I'm saying? So you can't get around it. But the
Mm-hmm.
most important is the dollar bill. So no matter what occupation, if you go to a dentist, each tooth has is assigned a number in the mouth. If you go to your account, they'll tell you whether you're gonna pay taxes or get taxes. You go to the doctor, they're gonna tell you whether your blood pressure is normal, your cholesterol level. So numbers speak in whatever occupation. And to the athlete, the greatest thing since you love sports is to have their number retired. Never ever in the franchise could they wear number 23. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever number. So for
Mm-hmm.
example, we did Kyrie Irving. He's born on March the 23rd. He's an Aries, but he's always wore jersey number 11. Okay, when he played for the Brooklyn Nets, it was 11. When he played for the Cavaliers, it was 11. When he played, no, the Cavaliers, it was the number 2. It's either the number 2 or the number 11. But Kyrie Irving has 11 letters in his name. When you take the month, the day, and the year he's born, it adds up to an 11. I mean, I could
Well,
do this all day long. I could do
yeah.
this all day long. So, so I tell people, don't take my word for it. You do the research yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did you know of all 50 states, not one of the states within the United States is under the signs of Aries or Taurus? Why is that? Did you know that of the states, that of all the months, no president out of the 200 and some odd years of a history has ever died in the month of May or on the seventh day? So the president came to me and said, Lloyd, what is the best day for me to walk among the populace, okay? With the least amount of harm or threat to my life? I say, so you need to pick May 7th, May 16th, or May 25th. You'll be fine.
Telling you, you just, that's the reason why I love talking to you because you give me knowledge every
Yeah,
single time I talk to you. And again, you want people to be awake and aware of what's really out there for them.
yeah, yeah.
And it's easy if you
And
know what you're doing.
for example, the Wall Street was founded on May 17th in 1735, I do believe. Well, it's founded under the sign of Taurus. When the stock market is doing well, don't they say the market is bullish? Well,
Yeah.
what is the zodiac sign to? Taurus, the bull.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, there's so many obvious things. J.P. Morgan once interviewed by the press. They said that when they found out he studied astrology from Evangeline Adams, they says, is it true? Does astrology make millionaires? He says, no, it makes billionaires. He was one of the few people in the early 1900s that employed an astrologer on his staff. And Evangeline Adams, who was a number 8 like him, he was born on the 17th of 8, actually taught him astrology, which is why he did not get on the Titanic. On the day the Titanic was launched in early April of 1912, Mercury went retrograde in Aries. Now, Aries rules accidents and injuries and explosions and this, that, and the other. He owned the White Star Line, which owned the Titanic, yet he didn't go. Yet he did not go. So on that fateful day in early March, April 14, 15, and so because Mercury's retrograde that rules men's communications, when they sent a SOS signal out to rescue, the ship that was closest never got the signal. But the ship that was the furthest away did get the signal. And by the time they came to the rescue of the Titanic, most of the passengers, unfortunately, had lost their lives. Yet, less than a year later, J.P. Morgan died on March the 31st, 17 days before his birthday in 1913. Isn't that interesting?
You
It
have them
teaches
all
me
hooked up.
history. It teaches me history, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. All you have to do is open your eyes and listen. I mean,
Yeah.
open your eyes and see, and open your ears and listen, because that will do it. You know, someone else you were talking about, Reagan, because Nancy Reagan also depended on an astrologer.
Yes. Well, she's the one that brought her astrologer in to make sure her husband did not make any other moves. That's what made him the fifth and distinct one that of the
Hmm.
five. He's the only one that got out alive. And in
Yeah.
fact, the friends of the Reagans wanted to give them a house. The house number was 666. She changed the house number
She
because
said, "Nope."
Ronald Wilson Reagan had six letters in his first name, six letters in his middle name, six letters in his last name. He was born on the 6th of the month. He went to Eureka College, six letters. He was the 33rd governor of California. Three plus three is six. His wife Nancy was born on the 6th of July, et cetera, et cetera. When he was sworn, when he won the election on November the 4th of 1980, it was the sixth universal day. He was 69 years old. Six plus nine is 15, and one plus five is six. I tell people, don't take my word for it. You do the research yourself. I did.
You have, and you
That's why I
continue
speak
to.
with the confidence I do.
Yeah, yeah. And you're helping my listeners learn a lot more too, because you've always fascinated me, but just because you are also always doing your history, and sharing that too, to it's not necessarily to prove that you're right as much as it is to open people's eyes to the fact that it is there, and you will be able to walk that path.
Yeah. And what I try to do when demonstrating these numbers about famous personalities, in the eyes of God, all of us are famous.
Mm-hmm.
All of
Mm-hmm.
us.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the fact that it took billions and billions of sperm to go after one egg, and you and I are as a result of the union of that one out of millions of sperms in that egg. You can't tell me you're not special, dear. That's why I
Yeah.
treat everybody the same way until they act the fool, then I just leave them alone.
Bye bye. Bye
Yeah,
bye, fool.
I
Yeah.
don't I
Yeah.
don't have to do that. And so this is why I treat everybody with respect. And
Mm-hmm.
I teach my granddaughter that manners are magic. That's how I taught my children. When I went to China, the two words I learned, if nothing else, was hello, which is ni hao, and thank you, which is shani. For the elders is shishini. And I ni hao and shani them people to death until I got out of China. I was there about 2 weeks. That's all I knew. Hello and thank you. Hello and thank you. Hello. And that opened up more doors for me. And
Yeah.
it's nothing to be nice to people. Now we want to get on the phone and curse somebody out.
Kindness.
And then we want
Yeah.
that person on the other end to help us too.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my children another way. That's like you slapping somebody in the face and then asking for a favor. They're just not going to
Mm-hmm.
be receptive. I'm sorry.
Yeah. 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 That's I wish some of our politicians would learn that. It's way too much about the party and not about the people. And I said, you're being paid by all of us. So let's get this together and go on down the road in in the name of everyone, because
Yeah.
we're all here for a purpose, and it's nothing wrong with looking for a good life. It's
But not at
there.
the expense of everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, Lloyd, I guess we're not going to be joined by anybody else at this
It's
point, but
okay. I enjoy being with you
you
selfishly. I'm
know,
selfish.
I
Having all to myself is fun.
I love talking to you, and the knowledge that I gained from you is just really exceptional. And the other thing is, I want people to know that you do personal readings.
Yes, I do.
They just have to get in touch with you, and it is just absolutely amazing because you don't just give them the next day or week. You give them a long forecast. You're kind of like the weatherman.
Yeah,
Uh, you
yeah,
can go
yeah,
you can go a lot
yeah.
longer, and you're a lot more accurate.
And that's where the app comes in because it helps do what I've been doing for years, except now I can help many more people. So the person who said, Lloyd, you can make millions, I hadn't thought of millions of dollars. I thought of millions of people I could help. See, it all depends on how we look at things. So that's why I can't be bought. Yes, it'd be nice to have a lot of money, but nobody could ever buy me against you. No, I am not for sale in that way. But to help millions of people, that intrigues me more than making millions of dollars. If it makes it, beautiful. But if I can reach millions of people, then I've done my job. And there's certain things that money can't buy. And my love in helping people is just priceless. I love it.
I
And I'm
agree with
nosy
you.
too. I'm really nosy too, Jackie. I got issues, okay? At least I know I got issues.
Don't we all? Don't we all? But just even learning ourselves better through numerology and astrology, with you being an astro-numerologist, you kind of cover the bases
Yeah.
and move us ahead in a very positive way. And
Mhm.
yet you give warnings at times too.
Yeah, well, it's like if it's going to be a stormy day, you don't tell them to go out like it's going to be sunny outside. You tell them they got to be prepared.
Right.
Like the weatherman can tell you when there's possible hurricanes coming through and to prepare yourself. I mean, as I told my children, the sun don't come out every day. I love sunny days, but reality
Me
check
too.
is it doesn't come out. Some days it's going to be cloudy, overcast, rainy, stormy. You know what I'm saying? So it
Mhm.
all depends on how you do it. And my app is like that, my Star 8 app. It kind of forecasts the week for you, forecasts the month for you. So you know how to dress, in this case, act accordingly in
Right.
terms of setting up things as significant, you know?
It's very true. All
Yeah.
right. I guess we can
You
I'm
know I
gonna
love you, Maggie. You know I love you. You my girl. I love you, boy. I'm
same here.
impressed. I'm really, it's just nice.
Well, again, I just had to have you on because I wanted people to understand a little bit more when I say a numerologist or astro-numerologist help me. I don't
Hmm.
want them to go, oh, that's fluff, because you just rolled it in to a little bit of everything. And there's no way they can deny if you're born on that date and that place and that location, guess what? It's a good thing.
Yes.
It's a good thing.
As I said, when I take those pages, especially the Ten Commandments, honor thy mother and thy father, this, that, and the other,
Hmm.
but thou shalt not kill, they cannot name me a war since Cain killed Abel, and it all started from there. The Crusade, you name it, of any war fought in the name of a particular zodiac sign or any war fought in a particular number 1 through 9. Now, when they come over that, I'll stop what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, hey,
It's
let's
not
hope
going to
you
happen.
got a lot more time, a lot more classes, and everything else. Once again, podcast is
My podcast is Numbers in You podcast. My audiobook is also Numbers in You audiobook that they can get on Spotify, audio, Google.
available.
Then I have my online courses, uh, it's Learn from Lloyd, How to Read a Person Like a Book. It's a Learn from Lloyd series. Learn from Lloyd, The Next Step in Numerology. Learn from Lloyd, The Do's and Don'ts of Numerology. And I'm now on TikTok, and TikTok has just exploded.
It's
So I
wonderful.
mean, it's nice. I'm so glad that God bless me. And the reason why I'm so thankful, just as God has given me this gift, if I'd be, as my mother used to say, smelling myself, he could also remove it where I'd be saying 2 + 2 is 5. And we know that is not the right answer. Okay? So I will be forever humble about what I do.
Yeah,
Each day I
I
become more humble and more appreciative that I
mhm.
was really blessed to do this, and I'm glad I stuck with it. So that's how you find your passion. Write your first list of everything you want to do, but don't have nobody around to discourage you, encourage you, whatever. You want to write your own list. As crazy as it sounds, second list is more about reality of those lists of things. Which of them will deal with your livelihood, your expenses, pay your bills, your overhead, your food, clothing, whatever the case is. But the third one is the most significant of all of those things. What would you do if they never paid you? That's your passion. And that's what we do.
What we
We just
do.
turned it into a livable thing. But don't think we haven't gone through no changes, but it tests our metal. It tests our metal.
Mhm.
And God honors diligence. He always honors diligence. We've been diligent to our path. And we just as happy, right, Maggie?
I am. I am. Well, my mom and dad used to always say, when the people tell you you can't do something, then success is the best revenge.
Yes. And I've
Because you
done a lot of
succeed, you
success.
go on. I can't hold on to stuff from 5 years ago and still mad about it. It's like, done. Let's go on. Let's move
It doesn't
forward.
do us any good. It
That's
doesn't
right.
do us any good at all.
That's right.
But Maggie, thank you so much for having me. And I've got to have you back on again. And thank you. I think I'm the first to do it live, and I'm so honored. But tomorrow's
Oh,
another star day in your Star 8 app.
I'm looking forward to it. My great nephew's graduating from high school, and the family's getting together. So it's going to be a great day.
Well, all the best to him, and tell him congratulations to a person unknown, but still, my whole game is I always wish people the best.
I do too. I
Yeah.
do too, Lloyd.
How
Yeah.
do my mother would tell me, one of the beauties before I go about my parents
Hmm.
not being educated in the South,
Hmm.
they use a lot of common sense. You want for other people what you want for yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't even need a GED to understand that.
Hmm.
How are you going to be jealous if you hit a lottery and I want to hit a lottery at the same time? I'm gonna wish you all the best in the lottery because maybe one day God will bless me
Hmm.
with the lottery
Hmm.
too. But you can't
Yeah.
have it both ways. The law of what you put out there, the law of attraction don't work like that. So you
Comes
give to
back.
others what you want for yourself. That's why I always treat people with respect because
Yeah.
that's what I respect. And I've never had a problem with anybody. Never, ever. So
Great.
I'm on the good side. I'm on
Yeah.
God's
He's
side.
on the good foot. Hey, listen, folks, if you want to know more, go to Lloyd-Strayhorn.com. Once again, that's Lloyd-Strayhorn.com. He's there. There's so much, many things that we talked about tonight. You can learn more from
Yeah.
my dear friend, Lloyd Strayhorn.
Love
Thank
you.
you so much. I
Thank you.
love you too. And
Yeah.
to those of you out there, continue to seek peace and spread lots of love. I'm
And
Maggie
follow
Linton.
Scared Cat.